So I just recently beat Pokemon Legends ZA, and I wanted to do a podcast episode talking about it, just kind of giving my overall thoughts and feelings about the game. Because this is one of those games that I imagine a lot of people are still on the fence about whether or not they want to buy it. Because obviously the Pokemon Company in recent years has been marred with a lot of controversy, unfortunately, of just people feeling like that they're very anti-consumer, and this game is kind of another example of that, where a lot of people feel like the amount of content here in this game is not worth the $70 price tag that this game costs on Switch 2. And it is the most expensive Pokemon game to date, so naturally that's going to elevate people's expectations on the quality as well as the quantity of content that's on offer here. A lot of people weren't satisfied, so like they took to Metacritic, they started review bombing the game and everything. Certainly didn't help that they announced DLC for the game, paid DLC ahead of the game's release. That's going to be like an extra $30. So to experience, to get the full experience here, you're going to pay like $100 on this game, which is kind of insane. So I understand, why people have these frustrations with the Pokemon Company. But for what it's worth, I personally really enjoyed this game, and I don't regret the $70 that I spent on it. And I say that as somebody who is a very casual Pokemon fan. I almost kind of hesitate to even call myself a Pokemon fan, because my experience with the franchise is very limited. And I'd kind of like to spend a few minutes early on here just kind of going into that, because I just think it's worth talking about. So my first Pokemon game, like I had kind of an unconventional introduction to Pokemon, I guess, because like as a kid, I just didn't really have an interest in it. Like I would see it in all these, commercials and stuff, and of course, I'd play Smash Brothers and stuff, so I was familiar with Pikachu and Jigglypuff and everybody from games like Smash. But yeah, the first time I actually bought a Pokemon game wasn't until I was in high school. I was like maybe 15 or 16 years old, and I bought Pokemon X for the 3DS. Literally, the only reason I bought that game, I wasn't really particularly interested in it, but like I had a crush on this girl at the time, and I found out that she was really into Pokemon, so I thought, hey, if I get this Pokemon game and play it, then maybe that can be something I can talk about with her. But things didn't really pan out with that, unfortunately. And so I never really, I barely touched the game. I put like an hour into it, and I had so many other games to play, so I dropped it pretty quickly. It really wasn't until the Switch era that I really gave Pokemon more of a fair chance. So 2018, you had Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu came out, and I really wanted to get that game because I thought, like, okay, well, this is going to be probably a good entry point for me because it's kind of a remake of the first gen Pokemon game, so this is probably a good place to start because it's essentially red and blue. So I picked it up, and also the Switch was pretty new at that time. It had only been out for like a year, so it was still kind of this hot, fresh new thing. It was still such a novel experience, being able to play games, on the TV and handheld and everything. So, when you're in that honeymoon phase of a new console, you want to buy a lot of different games for it, so you're trying different things that you may not have necessarily tried in the past. And also, early on, you've got a much more limited, software library to choose from. And I remember, 2017, people look back on as being like such a stacked year for Switch games, and its launch year. But 2018, the year that Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee came out, there really wasn't a whole lot first party wise from Nintendo. I remember, early on in the year, you had like a bunch of ports. We got like Tropical Freeze, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, and then also I think Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, and maybe some other Wii U ports came over to the Switch. Then you had Mario Tennis Aces, which kind of had pretty middling reviews. You had at the very end of the year, Smash Brothers Ultimate came out, but that wasn't until December, so that was practically a 2019 game. And then there might have been some other stuff here and there. I'm trying to think what else came out in 2018. Like we might have had like some DLC for like Xenoblade 2, but yeah, there wasn't that many games from Nintendo that came out in 2018. I think Splatoon 2 had like the Octo expansion DLC that year, if I'm remembering correctly. So a lot of DLC, a lot of ports, and then the new games that did come out, like again Mario Tennis, also Kirby Star Allies came out that year, and that was another very sucky game that didn't get very good reviews. So yeah, so I picked up Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I didn't get it like right at launch necessarily. It was sometime later I got that game. Um, I might have asked for it for Christmas or something because I was a little reluctant to spend my own money on it because I'd never really taken much of an interest in Pokemon before. And then I was aware of some of the controversy surrounding that game where it had the whole thing where like you could only use like the one Joy-Con if you were playing on the TV because like I don't know, it's very weird because they wanted you to be able to like have the experience of like throwing the Pokeball, but it's like okay, why does that have to be a mandatory thing? And the game just in general, I think like after the success of Pokemon Go, they were kind of targeting a more casual audience with this new game. So yeah, it was very divisive. A lot of people were not huge on it, but I picked it up. I played it for probably about 5 hours, and then I dropped it. I fell off of it. I lost interest pretty quickly. I just kind of felt like, yeah, I'm not really having fun with this. I did like that they made it so you could actually see the Pokemon just in the overworld. Because that's one reason that I never got into Pokemon is because I really hate random encounters in RPGs. I hate it in Pokemon. I hate it in Undertale. I hate it in the early Dragon Quest games. Anytime you've got random encounters where like you take two steps and then diddle 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 diddle, a wild grass Pokemon appeared, and you battle it, and then you take two more steps on the hub world, and then diddle diddle diddle. Like I can't even just walk through 5 feet of grass without getting like three random encounters, and it's all just Pokemon I've already captured before. It just feels so antiquated. Especially considering as far back as like the Super Nintendo. I mean, like Super Mario RPG, which came out in like 1995 or six. It didn't have random encounters. You could see all of the enemies on the overworld, so it was up to you whether or not you wanted to engage with them. Same with like Earthbound, which I'm not sure what year Earthbound came out on the Super Nintendo, but I'm pretty sure it was before Mario RPG even. So like maybe like I don't know 93, 94 if I had to take a guess. I'm not sure about the original Mother game on NES, but that one might have even had enemies on the overworld and not random encounters. I'm not sure, so it just feels so dated. I hate it. um, but I did like that at least about Pokemon. Let's Go Pikachu, but otherwise it was just very hard for me to get into. It's like you're just going along these linear paths, and you would encounter this NPC, Pokemon trainer, and you'd have a battle. But before the battle, they'd have like one or two sentences of dialogue where it would just be something completely nonsensical. Like I know there's the whole meme of like the one kid saying, I like shorts. They're comfortable and easy to wear. But that's like every NPC in this game. They just have something so mind-numbingly stupid to tell you, and then you get into a battle. I was like, okay, that was weird, but all right. And a lot of the NPCs you'd be battling would just be copied and pasted. It'd be like, oh, you're fighting Billy, the elementary school student, and then later on, like an hour or two later, you're progressing. You're on a different route in a different area, and oh, now you're fighting, David, the elementary school student, but he's like. It's the exact same character model, the same facial features, the same hair, the same outfit. Like everything's the exact same, but just copied and pasted. So yeah, I don't know. I just really could not get into that game, so I fell off of it. And then the next game I picked up would have been Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I think Shining Pearl was the version that I went with. The remake of Diamond and Pearl from the DS, which came out on the Switch in 2021, I want to say, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, I think that was the game that released like just a few months between or before Legends Arceus. So I picked the game up, and it was kind of the same thing. I played it for maybe 5 hours, and I dropped it. I fell off of it. I just was not interested. I wasn't invested in the story. And that one went back to having the random encounters. So I just really wasn't having a lot of fun, particularly with that. So we were three for three of Pokemon games coming out that just were not grabbing me. That like I never beat. I just dropped them. I was just like, yeah, I'm waiting for the fun to happen. I'm trying to understand why this IP is the most financially successful entertainment property in the whole world, but I'm not seeing it. um, like that's true. Like Pokemon is more financially successful than Mickey Mouse, than Mario, than SpongeBob, any other entertainment franchise that you can think of. And I was just like, I don't get it. I'm not. I keep spending money on these games, and I'm trying to give them a chance, and then it's not doing anything for me. So that didn't change until Pokemon Legends Arceus came out. So this game came out early 2022 is that when it came out. It's another game I didn't get quite at launch, but I got it sometime later. Um, Not like super later, but maybe like a few months after it came out. And this one really grabbed me. This was the first Pokemon game that I actually beat. I put at least 50 hours into the game. I don't remember how long it took me to get to the end credits. I didn't do the post game stuff. I wanted to, but there was just so many other games coming out at the time. That was the year that Kirby and the Forgotten Land came out. There was a lot of good games that came out that year. So yeah, I didn't do all the post game stuff, but just going through the main campaign, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Um, some people felt like the art style was kind of divisive. They thought the game looked kind of generic. I really liked the art style, kind of the cel shaded Breath of the Wild thing that they went with. I thought it looked really, really good. I kind of think that style works better for a Pokemon game than for a Zelda game, to be completely honest. I loved the open ended nature. You had like these five maps that you could freely explore and catch Pokemon. And, once again, as with Let's Go Pikachu, which was the one thing I liked about the game, all the Pokemon were actually in the hub world. You could see them wandering around in their natural environment, so it's up to you whether or not you want to engage with them or not. But they kind of incorporated that with elements from Breath of the Wild, where you can kind of like be stealthy, like sneak up through the bushes, and instead of like shooting an arrow at a bokoblin, you can chuck a pokeball at them and try to catch them from a distance. And sometimes you would be able to. Other times you would have to battle them with one of your Pokemon to wear them down. To the point where it would be easier for you to catch them. But it was just a really fun, really engaging system that I thoroughly enjoyed. You also had like materials that you could find in the overworld. Some you could just go up to and harvest, but others might be like, oh, there's this crystal, but to mine the ore from it, you need to send one of your Pokemon at it, and they'll bash it open, and then it'll give you the materials that you need to, craft more Pokeballs or to craft like revives and like potions and different stuff like that. But yeah, I thought it was a fantastic game. I genuinely thoroughly enjoyed that game. Like I would give it a 9 out of 10, and I would say it's one of the best first party Nintendo games on the Switch in my opinion. So yeah, finally it took for the fourth game, but finally the fourth Pokemon game I played was the one that really hooked me. I was like, okay, this is great. I still am hesitant to call myself a Pokemon fan. I'm a Pokemon Legends Arceus fan, but that's still just one game. I feel like you need to be a fan of more than one game before you can start calling yourself a fan. So then you had Pokemon Scarlet and Violet that came out, and this is yet another game that was marred with a lot of controversy because people felt like that the game was unfinished when it came out. That's because it was unfinished when it came out. Let's be for real. It just lacked a lot of polish. You had a lot of graphical and technical glitches, and a lot of people just felt that the game just looked and felt very cheap, and that Pokemon rushed it out for the holidays, and that it really could have used more time in the oven. And Nintendo and Game Freak ended up like apologizing for that game's performance at launch, which is something Nintendo's like pretty much never done, because they're very prideful when it comes to that sort of thing. And they're also usually pretty good about having their games very polished when they come out. So that was another Pokemon game. I skipped at launch because I was kind of interested because it's like, okay, it's a fully open world, which Arceus wasn't quite there, but this is actually taking that next step into a full Breath of the Wild-esque seamless open world game. And you've still got the no random encounters. So like I was very interested in it. You've got you can mount your Pokemon, which you could do that in Arceus as well, which was really cool. But now it's just fully open. You can go anywhere you want. You can like ride this. I forget the name of that like legendary Pokemon, but it's like part motorcycle. Like it's got wheels and like you can ride, you know, straight up walls, and you can glide, and you could like unlock different upgrades to be able to tackle different types of terrain. And explore new areas, which was really cool. And once again, you had a lot of different materials you could find and stuff. But yeah, I didn't get the game at launch because I was like, okay, this game's clearly got a lot of problems. So we'll wait and see, like once they patch some of that out. So I eventually picked up Scarlet and Violet, and despite the game's criticism, despite all the negative reception it got, and also despite the fact that, again, I'd never really gotten much into Pokemon before. Until Arceus, I liked Scarlet and Violet. Not as good as Arceus. I would give it maybe an 8 out of 10. The game definitely wasn't perfect, but for what it was, I still enjoyed it. I had a very good time. Exploring these open areas because it was cool. Because like you would see these trainers that you could battle with, but it was up to you. They weren't gonna you weren't walking along this very linear path where you can't go off and explore, and it's like. There's 5 trainers right in front of me, and I can't avoid any of it. And some of the, in a lot of the early Pokemon games, there'll be some trainers you can kind of sneak past. They'll be walking back and forth, and as long as you don't get in their line of sight, you can skip them. But then it's kind of like, well, if I don't fight them, though, then I'm missing out on some experience points and whatever other rewards I might get for fighting them. But it just got very monotonous, just going along these very straight linear paths and, just getting bombarded with NPC after NPC who wants to battle you. But yeah, in this game, you could just kind of tackle it at your leisure. They wouldn't force you to stop, and where it's an open world game, you don't even have to be in their line of sight. But even if you are, they're not going to halt you. It's just, you have to go up to them and press the A button and talk to them and say, yes, I would like to battle, which in my opinion is the way that it should be. So that was great. I enjoyed the open-ended nature of the game. I really didn't let the graphics deter me too badly because I've always been a Nintendo fan first and foremost, and as Nintendo gamers, we've kind of been accustomed to the fact that graphics aren't everything. You kind of have to have that mentality to be a Nintendo fan because for years, with like the Wii and the Wii U just being very underpowered compared to other consoles, and not being able to run necessarily the newest AAA third-party game. You kind of desensitize yourself to games with subpar graphics, I guess. So I never really let it deter me. And since I did wait until some of the patches had come out, I didn't really run into a lot of, glitches or, from what I remember, I don't really remember there being like a whole lot of serious like frame rate issues either. But I was even pretty invested in the story. I thought the story was pretty okay. In Legends of Arceus, I kind of forget now a lot of the plot points, but it was interesting. It kind of sort of, you can draw some real world parallels with like the Abrahamic religions and stuff, where it's like you've got these 2 groups of people and they're kind of feuding over how this like ancient text is supposed to be interpreted. Really, like even just, not even just different religions, but even within faiths, whether it's Christianity or Islam or Judaism, you've got all these different sects of it that have different beliefs based on their perception of the text. So that was kind of interesting. But Scarlet and Violet, I was actually like really impressed with the story in that game. Like it went places that I was not expecting. Like it gets pretty dark, pretty heavy, dealing with death, and like I won't go into like everything, but kind of the twist in that game really surprised me. I was like, oh my god, that's pretty heavy hitting. I didn't realize that Pokemon was capable of that, because like even with like the anime and stuff. Like I would see the Pokemon cartoon come on as a kid, but I would never watch it because I was just like, I always just got the impression like that it was just kind of cheesy, corny, for kids or whatever. Well, I mean, I was a kid, but it. I guess the way that I perceived Pokemon was like it almost felt like Dora, right? But instead of teaching you something valuable like Spanish, it was teaching you, uh, the names of all 150 Gen 1 Pokemon. That way, kids would talk their parents into going out and buying a million packs of trading cards, right? Like, I don't know. It just felt very, just kind of just cheesy, just like, I don't know, almost like condescending to me as a audience member watching it, so I just never really took an interest in it. It just felt very contrived. Every episode ends with Team Rocket's blasting off again, and it was just like, I don't know. It just felt very one note and kind of boring, and like it just existed to sell merchandise, really, to get kids addicted. But since then, I've watched a few episodes of the Pokemon anime. Not much, literally like maybe the first 3 episodes, like where Ash first gets his Pikachu and stuff, and when he first meets like Brock and Misty. That might actually be a series. Let me know in the comments if you want to see that, because I'm starting movie and TV show reactions on this channel. If you want to see me do a full reaction to the whole like original Pokemon animated series, I probably won't go through like every single iteration, but at least maybe like the first series of it. I'd be up to doing that, because I did watch a few episodes and I was pretty impressed. I was surprised, like when I actually took the time to sit down and watch it. Like, Pikachu does not like Ash at first when he first gets Pikachu, and he's like constantly like electrocuting him, and like Ash and Misty butt heads a lot. And I've seen like on YouTube, there's like the whole compilation of Ash just roasting everybody. I'm just like, wow, this show's a lot more. I don't know if cynical is the right word, but it's got a lot more of an attitude than I realized that it had, and I can appreciate it. Like, it's not the sanitized, cringy thing for babies that I guess I thought it was as a kid. So I am kind of interested now in going back and watching the anime. Um, but yeah, so that's also how I felt playing Scarlet and Violet. Just like, wow, this gets really surprisingly dark. Like, I'm shocked. I think there's even a Pokemon. I guess if you read like the Pokédex entry, I don't know which one it is. Like one of the ghost type Pokemon, I guess, or a legendary. I don't know, but there's one Pokemon I think that like I don't know if it like lures children and like takes their souls. I'm not sure what it does exactly. Something like that. And it's just like, yeah, I didn't realize Pokemon was this dark. um, so yeah, I played Violet. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Again, not as much as Arceus. And then after that, I picked up Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I went back to not really liking Pokemon again. I didn't care for Sword and Shield. I enjoyed the wild area. When I got the game, I was under the impression that there were like 2 wild areas, but no, there's just the one. And that was kind of fun, running around and catching Pokemon in this one area. And, you've got your bike and stuff, and it's, you got a free camera that you can move around, and, all the Pokemon are in the overworld. But outside of that one relatively small area, then it was just back to the going along the very linear routes, and getting stopped by NPC every 5 steps, who wants to have a battle, and then you walking through the grass or whatever, and then you get bombarded with random encounters. Because again, I hate the random encounters. Why are we still doing this in 2019? I never did get the DLC. I think I probably would have enjoyed that. There was the Isle of Armor, and then was it the something Tundra? I forget exactly what it was called. But it's just 2, open world, open zone areas. So someday I probably will go back and get the DLC for Sword and Shield, because I thought that looked interesting. Also, Scarlet and Violet, I never got the DLC for that game either. But yeah, that looked interesting. Like the second wave of that Scarlet and Violet DLC, where it's like you're in this like dome that's like separated into like 4 different biomes or something. That looked really cool. So someday, hopefully, I'll get the time to actually go back and play that. But yeah, for the base game, Scarlet and Violet, or not Scarlet and Violet, but for Sword and Shield, didn't get into it. Even the story and characters I thought was just very forgettable. The main twist villain I saw coming a mile away from like the start of the game. I was like, oh, that guy's probably going to be evil, and he was. So yeah, it didn't leave a very strong impression for me. And then I did also go back and I finally beat Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and I beat the whole game from beginning to the end. So I don't remember how long it took, if it was like 40 hours or what, but I still, even after going back to give it a second chance, I still just could not get that into it. I kept pushing through. I kept persevering. I was like, no, I'm going to see this to the credits. And I got there and I was just like, yeah, this didn't really do anything for me. The most enjoyable aspect of that game was actually the new thing they added with like the underground thing. I forget what it was called, but there was like this series of tunnels where you could find and catch a bunch of Pokemon. And it was pretty open ended. It was all these like narrow corridors. It was kind of like a maze, but you could explore that maze like at your leisure. You could go whichever way you wanted to. And once again, all the Pokemon were just out and about. It wasn't random encounters. So you see a Pokemon you don't have, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna go to that guy. I'm gonna go to that Onyx or whatever and challenge him. So that was great, but that was a very small component of the whole rest of the game. If the whole game had been more like that, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more, which I know, and I don't fully understand why, but I do know that was another game, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, that was very negatively received. I don't know if the problem was that it was like too faithful of a remake and that it didn't add anything new or innovate in any meaningful way, maybe, or what. Because it's like, you know, people will say that like it was just like a very bad remake, and it's like, well, okay, if I went back and played the original Diamond and Pearl on DS, are you saying I would have a better time? Or if I didn't like this one, would I have just as bad of a time? Because, it's not that this remake's worse than the original. It's just the problem is that it's not better, which is what a remake should be. I don't know. Somebody can maybe let me know in the comments. But yeah, so I didn't get into that one. And then I also went back to Pokemon X and I put about 15 hours into it, and then I fell off of it again because I just really wasn't getting into that either. So like when it comes to the linear Pokemon games where you're following a strict path, going down these routes in a very linear order, and you've got all these random encounters with wild Pokemon. You go into a cave and then you get, you get surprised by what are they called? Zubats. A Zubat every like 5 seconds. A wild Zubat appeared, and I know you can get like potions like in the towns, but or not potions, but like you can get these repellents that you spray, and it makes it where like for 15 seconds or something, no wild Pokemon will engage you. But it just like it's still kind of tedious. It's still kind of monotonous to have to like use one every 15 seconds if you're really trying to avoid the battles. So I don't know. I've heard that maybe that Pokemon games really get going like after you roll the credits, then like the post game where it's like, okay, now you're filling out your Pokédex and you're finding all the shinies and stuff. But like, I just never really would get to that point because it's like, it's just so much of a chore for me to get to the end that it's like, now that I've rolled the credits, it's like I kind of want to just move on. It's hard to bring myself to just like keep going with it, but I don't know. So yeah, and like I want to give these Pokemon games more of a fair chance. Probably a year or so ago at like a used game store, I picked up Pokemon Moon. I picked up Alpha Sapphire. I might have picked up one more. I can't remember. But like I always intended to play these games, and I just never got around to playing them because like it was like, well, I'll finish X first. I'll finally go back. I'll beat Let's Go Pikachu first. But it's like I just can't get into these games. I don't know. Like nothing. And when I think back to them, when I think back to what little I did play of Let's Go Pikachu, or even like the 15 hours I put into X, which wasn't that long ago. That was maybe like a year ago. I don't remember anything. I couldn't tell you anything about Pokemon X, except of course you've got the Lumio City, which is the same one as here in Legend ZA, which we're going to get into in a minute. I realize I've been talking for like 30 minutes and I've really not even gone into my feelings of ZA yet. I just really I kind of wanted to do like kind of a background, going over my history of Pokemon because I think it's relevant and I just think it's kind of interesting because I don't know that many other people like me that's like, yeah, I've played all these other Pokemon games, but most of them just don't, like, I still don't get it. I feel like most people who don't like Pokemon have never played it. But I'm one of the few, I feel like, who's played a bunch of different Pokemon games, and I'm like, yeah, I still don't like at least this one specific type. Again, the more open-ended ones, the Legends games and Scarlet and Violet, yeah, I have a good time with those. But just the traditional classic Pokemon games, which I feel like a lot of Pokemon fans want them to go back to doing more of that. Um, I just, I don't get it. I wish I could get it. I want to, and it's not, if you love the traditional classic Pokemon games, the top down 2D ones, more power to you. I'm not trying to hate on it, but it's just from my perspective, I can't I've tried to force myself to like these games, but I've just not they've not sunk their teeth into me. I've really tried to give them a fair chance. But like, I want to eventually someday play Sun and Moon. Like I've heard really good things about like the Alola region and stuff, but it's like, but if these other ones didn't grab me, is this one really going to? So I don't know. I'll probably play it someday, but probably not anytime soon. And when I do, I don't know that I'm going to particularly love it. Um, but yeah, the only other thing I remember about X, of course, you've got like Lumiose. And then I remember one part that might have been close to where I left off, where I dropped the game, where you go to this like manor. There's like this mansion or something, and I think I remember going through like a garden, and there's some like, some hedge mazes or something you got to go through. But I don't know. That's odd. I don't remember very much at all about the game, and that was again just like a year or so ago when I played it. And part of that's like, if you compare it to a game like Paper Mario, for example, like I love Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. It's my favorite game of all time. And for one thing, I just find the RPG mechanics, the turn-based battle system, a lot more engaging. You do like the action commands and stuff, so it feels a lot more involved. Whereas with the traditional Pokemon games, it just feels so mindless and kind of hands-off, where you click the button to tell your Pokemon to do this, and he does it. Whereas the Legends games feel a lot more hands-on because, like, you're moving around, you're trying to not take damage. You're still commanding, you're still sending out your Pokemon and telling them to do this. But it's real time, so it feels a lot more engaging to me. But beyond that, and I would say more importantly, the biggest thing that I think the Paper Mario games have over the traditional Pokemon games is just the story and just the moment-to-moment character interactions. So like in Pokemon X or Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu or Pokemon Sword and Shield, like I'll get to these towns and I'll talk to these NPCs and they just don't do anything for me. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, that's why I love that game so much, because every character interaction feels so fleshed out. I couldn't tell you any of these characters. Again, a lot of them, they copy and paste the same character model. So I don't know, I just can't connect to any of these people. um, so even like your rival characters in a lot of the games I've played, it's like I don't really feel that motivated to beat my rival. It's just like whatever. So I don't know, but in Paper Mario, every town you go to is so unique. It's so different. The characters in that world are so different with their own things going on, and I just don't get that from the traditional Pokemon games. But Yeah, so that's kind of my general experience with Pokemon. Like, I still hesitate to call myself a Pokemon fan. I do own. You can't see them right now. I've got this amiibo shelf here to my right, and at the top, I've got several. I've got like 7 or 8 Pokemon amiibo that I own. So I'm more of a Pokemon fan today than ever before. But yeah, up until like 2022, I guess, when I played Legends Arceus, I was not at all into this franchise whatsoever. Um, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to go through my history with the series. I guess the only other thing worth talking about, I did watch the live action movie, the Detective Pikachu movie. I thought it was decent. I wouldn't say it was like mind blowing or anything, but I'd give it maybe a 7 out of 10. I thought it was all right. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much my entire Pokemon history. But now going back to actually finally talking about Pokemon Legends ZA itself and what I think about this game. Um, just right off the bat, if I were to give it a review score of 1 to 10, uh, I would probably put it about the same as Scarlet and Violet. I would give this game an 8 out of 10. I think. I thought it was pretty solid. I enjoyed my time with it. For me, it was worth the $70 that it cost for the Switch 2 version. Um, and yeah, I feel like even though, because I've heard people say I've never really tried it and tested it out for myself, but that it takes like maybe just like 2 minutes to go all the way around the circumference of the city or to go from, across the diameter of the city, something like that. And I don't doubt it. But I never felt like the game was that small scale when you actually play it. Like, even if it is a pretty small area, compared to like, say in Legends Arceus, where you had like 5 different open areas to explore, it's very densely packed, and it's also multi-layered, so you can get up on the roof of these buildings. And that's one of my favorite aspects of the game, actually, because like if you know me, I'm a big 3D platformer buff. I wouldn't go so far as to say that this game is a 3D platformer, but it's got elements that feel like it. You're kind of parkouring between buildings. Like, it kind of gave a little bit of vibes of like traversing New Donk City in Mario Odyssey, right, where you're jumping, from building to building. You don't actually have a dedicated jump button or anything in this game, but it's got this interesting mechanic where you've got a smartphone in the game, and whenever you walk off the ledge of a building, so if you just drop down, you're never going to die. There's no fall damage or anything. Your phone comes out, and your character grabs it before he hits the ground and uses the phone as sort of like a glider to kind of slow his fall. Um, and similarly, you get this ability at one point in the game, after you complete like a certain story quest, fairly early on. You get this ability where you can essentially like vault like from one building to the next. I almost think of it as like pole vaulting, kind of if you think like, say, in Animal Crossing New Horizons, you don't have a jump button in that game either. But if there's a space of water between you, if there's like a river, you can get out this big long vaulting pole and you can vault across to the other side. And that's kind of how it feels in this game, where you're on a rooftop and there's a building across that you want to get to, but there's this gap in between. You fall off the building, and then as you're descending, you press a button, and it'll make your phone give you like an upward boost of additional height, almost like doing a midair, like a double jump, even though you can't do like a regular jump. Um, and so it's kind of interesting the way you can kind of string that together. You also have this roll move that's like a dodge, when you're fighting Pokemon in the overworld. So you can kind of roll off a cliff and like to get a little bit of extra horizontal distance, and then do that vault move with your phone. That sort of feels kind of like, again, a little bit like loosely. I'm not saying it's like 1 to 1 because this game is not a platformer, and I should emphasize that. But it does kind of remind me a little bit of, like, say, if you're familiar with like Donkey Kong Country and how you can roll off a cliff, into a pit, but then after you roll, there's a window of opportunity where you can do a jump in midair without actually falling into the pit and dying. and that's how it kind of feels a little bit in this game, and it can be satisfying when you pull it off well. I do wish you had a little bit more movement options, but again, I get that this game is an action RPG. It's not a platformer, but just for me personally, since I love that genre so much, it would be nice to see more of that. But that was one of my, to me, the most enjoyable aspects of the game was going on these rooftops, and like they would have these little kind of almost like obstacle courses for you to get through, where there's like this construction company that puts up all this like scaffolding and stuff um, alongside various buildings, and they've got this like promotion going on where they'll be like, hey, we've put this, like, we've hidden these colorful screws all over on these girders and stuff. So if you go and scour the scaffolding, if you can climb up there and make all these intricate jumps and stuff to get these screws, you can trade them in for some really, really good rewards. In a way, they're almost kind of like Korok seeds from Breath of the Wild. Instead of giving you like extra like inventory slots, the way it works is you get these plushies. It's like these plush dolls, and each one will give you like a certain buff. Like there's the one that I went for right away, and you can upgrade these like 3 times. So if you bring in more screws, you can get better versions of these plushies. It makes it so whenever you do a battle, like with any of your Pokemon, you don't have to equip it to one specific Pokemon. It's just a permanent buff. You do a battle and you get extra experience points for it. And then there's another one that's like you get more coins for doing battles. So just different buffs like that. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that. In the real world, obviously, there'd be a lot of liabilities. That's just a lawsuit waiting to happen. This construction company being like, hey, why don't you scale up this dangerous high rise here with this precariously put together scaffolding and try to find the hidden thingies and bring it back to us, and if you don't fall and kill yourself, we'll give you a prize. But it seems like a bad PR move, all things considered. That's just a big PR disaster. Yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect of the game. And then on the roofs, you can also find Pokemon to collect. You can also find there's like these crystals, these purple crystals all over the place. You can send your Pokemon at to break it and harvest the crystals. So again, it's kind of like gathering ore from Pokemon Legends Arceus. That is one step back though in this game from Arceus, is that in that game you just have like all these different kinds of various materials that you could find, and you would find them and you could craft ingredients just like Breath of the Wild. So that was really cool. This game doesn't have any sort of crafting, so you're pretty much only gathering those purple crystals, and then throughout the map there will be these, you'll just see and they're just kind of like randomly placed, so they just kind of spawn wherever. They're not like meticulously like located the way that like in Breath of the Wild everything feels very deliberate and like, okay, I'm gonna put this Silent Princess flower here, and I'm gonna put this Tabantha wheat here. I'm gonna put these stamina mushrooms here. But in this game, it's just kind of random, and it's not even really modeled. There'll just be like a little glowing spot on the ground, and you go to it, and it's like, hey, you found a Pokeball, or hey, you got a revive, or hey, you got this potion, or you got a TM move. Usually stuff like that, like the TM moves, those will be hidden a lot more. They'd be a lot more tricky to find, right? So they're not just, and those actually, I will say, there'll be like red and purple and yellow, like glowing like Pokeballs that like you pick up, and it'll either be like a TM move, or it'll be something, or like a max revive or some other kind of rarer item, and those are deliberately placed. So like maybe if you do this really tricky, challenge, going across the rooftops to get to this one area that's hard to reach, then you'll get this special reward, and then it despawns and it's gone forever, and you can't just keep farming that one same item. So that's cool, but there'll be a lot of these other materials that's just kind of random, and you grab them and then they'll spawn again somewhere else. That's like just little things that's just laying on the ground. So it is a little disappointing, I guess, that there's not like all these different types of materials that you could collect and craft like you could in that game. But then you also had you have these wild areas that are just kind of like throughout the town. These I feel like maybe could have been handled a little bit better, but they're not bad. They're enjoyable. I really liked the wild areas. So you go into them. I think there's like 20 in total, unless there's more that open up in the post game. I'm not sure. But yeah, there are these areas that are kind of they're surrounded by this like kind of holographic like force field basically. So you can go up to it and you can enter in. Like the gates will open for you to go in. And you can enter and leave at any time you want. But the Pokemon can't. They're isolated there in these wild areas. And kind of the idea of it, it's like these, I guess, parks throughout the town where humans and Pokemon can kind of coexist. So you can go there. You can try to catch, different breeds of Pokemon that you don't already have, and it'll tell you on the map, like, there's you found like 6 of the 8 Pokemon. Like there's only these certain types of Pokemon that spawn inside of this wild zone. But try to collect them all, and it'll show you like a question mark if you've never encountered this Pokemon before, or if you have seen one. Like say you battled another trainer that has that Pokemon, but you've not actually got one yourself to add to your Pokédex. It'll show like a little silhouette of it, so you kind of know like, okay, I've not got all the ones out of this zone, so I'm trying to fill out my Pokédex. I've not found this particular Pokemon yet, but it looks like there's one that I can get in this zone. So it's cool going to all these areas and trying to fill out your Pokédex. And there'll be some Pokemon that only spawn maybe like at night, or some that only come out during the day. So you might have to change like the time of day to get the Pokemon that you're looking for, because the game does have this kind of day-night cycle. I don't know exactly how long it takes. It's not like a real-time thing like Animal Crossing, where the time of day that you're playing the game is what time it's going to be in the game. It doesn't read your Switch clock or anything. It's maybe, if I had to guess, it's probably pretty similar to how it works in Zelda games. So like in Breath of the Wild, I think every real world minute is the equivalent of an in-game hour. So, you'll have like 12 minutes or 12 hours of daytime, and then 12 minutes of nighttime, rinse and repeat. Um, and so yeah, when it gets to nighttime, that's where you have these special areas that open up. It's similar to the wild zones where it's kind of like fenced off. It's like these glowing red battle areas that you can go into and you can enter. And when you go into these zones, you're participating in this. I think it's called the ZA Royale, where you're like working your way up through the leaderboards to get to A rank, which is the highest rank. And then whoever can get all the way to the top will get any wish granted that they want, as long as the, I guess, government or whatever of Lumios is able to fulfill it. So you can't wish for like eternal life or anything. Um, but but yeah, so that was really cool. I liked that. Again, my favorite game of all time is Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. Probably my favorite chapter in that game is Chapter 3, where you're in the Glitz Pit, where Mario, he takes on this alter ego called the Great Gonzalez, and it's this battle arena where you're having to rise through the ranks to become the new champion, so you can get like the champion's belt. And so it kind of feels like something similar to that here, but it's just kind of throughout the whole game. It's not like one side mission. It's not like a smaller chapter. It's like, no, this is the whole thing that you're building up to. Like you can't advance the main story of the game until you rise up through the ranks in this tournament. That's how you beat the game, essentially, is getting to A rank. So you start off as Z, and you're working your way up. Each time you rank up, you go from Z to Y to X to W. But then once you get so far, after you've leveled up maybe like 5 or 6 times, I forget exactly, maybe you get to like V or U or something, then the game's kind of like, all right, you know what? And this is mandatory. You can't opt out of it. They're like, you know what? We're going to just jump you straight up to like F rank. And I didn't really love that. I thought that was a little stupid. It was like, okay, so we're just cheating. We're just, because it's like, that's the whole marketing for this game, is like you're going from Z to A, rise through the ranks. It feels almost a little false advertising. It's like you're cutting that just like in half. Like, okay, we're going to just elevate you up to F rank. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I guess maybe going all the way from Z to A, that'd be like 26 times of having to rank up, and maybe they thought that was just too much, like it would be too repetitive, and that a lot of players would maybe fall off and not see the end of the game. But like, I don't know. I thought that was a little, and I thought like, well, maybe they'll fix that in the post game where maybe you start back at Z, but it's like Z plus or something, and then you got to work your way up to A plus or something. So now, if you want to do all 26 letters, you can. That doesn't seem to be the case because like I've beat the game. I've not done a ton of post game content beyond like the Infinite Royale they call it or something like that. And you're just at rank infinite, and everybody else is at rank infinity. So it's like, you can do it as many times as you want, but I don't think you're really ranking up, and I don't know that it ever ends. So it kind of, that sense of satisfaction of like you're building up or you're working towards something, I don't really get in the post game. So that's kind of disappointing. I would have liked if you actually had to go through all 26 letters personally. But, whatever. It is what it is, I guess. But yeah, so when it's nighttime, you enter this area, and it kind of feels a little bit more like traditional Pokemon, where it's like you're kind of stealthily sneaking around, and you don't want to get spotted by the other trainers, because if they spot you, then they get an advantage in the battle. So you want to sneak up, and you want to get the first hit before they're able to see you. And you also pick up these cards along the way, and these cards will give you like a special condition where it'll be like, win three fights win three fights, or get the first hit in three fights, or defeat an enemy with a super effective move, or defeat three enemies using fire attack, and just like different stuff like that. And you get extra points. So you've got to get a certain amount of points fighting other players who are within your ranks. Like if you're Z rank starting out, you're fighting other Z rank players. And for each person you beat, you might get like, I don't know, maybe like 1,000 points just for beating them. But then if you get these extra achievements, that might add another 5,000 points or something. And then once you get so many, maybe like 20,000, 30,000, it varies. The amount of points you need goes up with each rank. But then you're able to take on the, I guess like the leader of that rank. And then you have an opportunity to go up to the next rank. Hopefully I'm explaining that well enough. It's a little hard to explain. But it's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing these battle zones at night because, if it gets to, they're only out at night. So you've got like 12 minutes or however long it is before it goes back to the day cycle and then it ends. But while it's nighttime, if you need 100,000 points before you're able to challenge, whoever the person you need to challenge is to rank up. Let's say you only get 50,000 points. That still carries over to the next night, so it's not like you have to get the ticket. Like once you get the points, then once you get all the points you need, then you get this ticket that you then take to the person that you have to challenge to advance. Yeah, it carries over. You don't lose your progress. It doesn't reset. But you still want to try to defeat as many enemies or as many opponents as you can during a single night. And also use as many of these cards to get as many extra points as possible as well, because you get like a score multiplier. It's like you earn a ton of money doing these. And it's really satisfying to see the numbers go up. Because by the end of the game, you'll be doing these, and like it'll be like, okay, you got from doing all these battles and stuff, and just like you'll find money laying around too in these battle zones, and it's like, okay, so from winning these battles and from picking up money, you got $100,000 or whatever. I don't know what the currency is in the Pokemon universe, but you got 100,000 of it. But we're gonna multiply that. You defeated 25 opponents before daybreak. We'll multiply that by 2.5. So you actually got $250,000. So you can grind money really quickly doing it. And it's a lot of fun. It really makes me, because it's like there's no stakes, there's no penalty if you don't reach a certain quota. But it's like in my mind, like I'll get anxious because it's like it's almost daybreak. I need to battle at least one more opponent. I can get like 10,000 extra points just by... I've snuck up on 9 out of 10. That's going to be really upsetting if I get to daybreak and I don't get that 10th person that I'd snuck up and got the first strike in battle on before daybreak. It feels very honestly, if you've played Pikmin, like the whole Dandori thing that Miyamoto talked about, just like efficiently managing your time and being able to like plan ahead, you know, because like I'll plan out this route where like because you know you can beat a trainer, you beat a rival, and then you can go up and talk to them, and they might give you a little reward, like here's some money that I've earned, or here I'll give you a coffee to refill your Pokemon's health. But when you're talking to them, then it freezes the in-game clock, but you can still move the camera around. So I'll plot out my route. I'll be talking to this person I just beat, and then I'll be looking the camera around like, okay, where's the next person? There they are. As soon as I'm out of this dialogue box, I'm going to make a beeline to that other person. And it's a lot of fun. So I really enjoy that. Again, I enjoy the wild zones. I enjoy the going on the rooftops and, you know, trying to find these screws. So there's a lot of variety in the gameplay, and I think it's a lot of fun. Um, I'm trying to think just like in terms of anything with the gameplay that I didn't like, and like yeah, like it's really fun. The turn based battles, again, it's a lot more engaging because you're having to position yourself. It's kind of like how it was in Legends Arceus, where you know you don't want to be standing in the same place for too long necessarily because other Pokemon can attack you, and if you fall, then you know you get sent back to a Pokemon Center. There's not a huge penalty for fainting. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing necessarily, because the stakes were a lot higher in Legends Arceus. If you got knocked out in battle, then you would drop a decent number of spoils that would get left behind, and you would have to go find it. Otherwise, you just lost, you know, a good portion of items. So I don't know how I feel about that one way or the other. I think it's interesting how this game chooses to tackle it versus how Legends Arceus did it, where in this game it's much more merciful. So yeah, there's no real penalty to getting knocked out by a Pokemon. There's also no penalty to missing your Pokeballs. I don't know how I feel about that either. You throw a Pokeball and maybe you miss, you know, you don't actually hit the Pokemon. There'll be a person that you can talk to who's next to every Pokemon Center that you go to, and he'll just pick up like, hey, you lost like 10 Pokeballs. Here you go. Now you don't get your Pokeballs back if you throw them at a Pokemon and they escape from the ball. That one stays gone forever. But if it's one that you toss out and it doesn't actually hit the Pokemon, you get that back, which I guess is nice. I guess that doesn't make the stakes too low. Sometimes, you know, it can be frustrating. Like I'll accidentally hit the button to throw a Pokeball and it's like, crap, I didn't mean to do that. I just like threw it at the ground, you know, for no reason. But you can just get it back. So that takes away some of the frustration there. And I don't guess it makes the game too easy. One thing that I don't know that I love, I could be misremembering, but I feel like in Legends Arceus, it felt more like Zelda, where it's like you're aiming your bow and arrow. In this game, it's more like when you go to throw your Pokeball, it's like you're always locked onto the target. So you're never really... I mean, you can kind of miss if you throw it and then the Pokemon quickly like takes a couple steps to the right, you know, while the ball's in the air and you might miss. But generally speaking, you can just kind of like lock right in. You don't really have to... There's not really much in the way of aiming. It kind of auto-aims for you at all times. I might be remembering wrong, but I feel like in Arceus, I always had to aim my shots. Like I couldn't just lock on, and it just like it's going to be a perfect hit no matter what. That's how it is in this game. Sometimes it'll show that you're locked on, like okay, you're within range. If you toss it, you know, as long as the Pokemon doesn't move, you're going to hit it. But then you throw your Pokeball, and it's like actually, even though we're locked on, you were still too far away, and like you'll see the Pokeball just like go through the Pokemon, like it just kind of clips through it, and it just nothing happens. So that can be a little annoying. It's like, okay, you actually needed to be closer. But again, it's not a huge thing because you can go to that guy who finds your lost balls and he'll pick them up for you. It's kind of weird to say out of context. Then, you know, you've got Mega Evolutions, and that's kind of like how the bosses work in this game, the boss battles. So, you know, you can fight other trainers and they can Mega Evolve their Pokemon. But the bosses there'll just be like these random Pokemon out in the wilds that have been randomly Mega Evolving and nobody really knows why, like what's going on. It's like there's kind of this mystery of like, well, there's this kind of like essence emanating from like the tower, it seems, and so they're kind of responding to it, and they're mutating, and we need somebody to stop all these rogue Pokemon that's mega evolving. And so those boss fights are okay. I wouldn't say they're anything like mind blowing. It's kind of more of the same battling where you're, dodging attacks, and you're sending your Pokemon out and you're choosing how you want them to attack. But you do, as you damage them, they'll drop these like glowing orb things that you have to pick up. So that kind of gives your human character something to do. You've got to run around and pick up these orbs while dodging attacks, and that fills up a meter for you to use your Mega Evolution, where you're going to be able to do a lot of damage, because until you Mega Evolve, you're not going to be able to do much damage to these bosses. But you have to attack them so that way they drop those orbs, so then you can Mega Evolve. Um, it's all right, I guess. It's been a long time since I played Legends Arceus, but I feel like in that game it was of a lot more involved, where I don't think you were even really like commanding your Pokemon. I feel like it was all you, from what I remember. Like you're having to like throw something. I forget what it is, but it's like you're having to pelt the boss. Like you're throwing some projectile at him to like wear him down while you're dodging all their attacks. So like it's all you in that game. I feel like your Pokemon aren't even really part of those boss battles, from what I remember. I could be misremembering. But I feel like that was a lot more engaging. Whereas in this game, it just kind of feels like more of the same regular battles that you're doing, except like the enemy's giant now, and you're having to like fill up this meter. But it's mostly the same. Um, Speaking of combat, one thing that is interesting, because like you can kind of move around and sort of position where you want your Pokemon to stand when they attack. So that kind of adds an extra layer of strategy, because in this game, where it isn't kind of this 3D space where you can move around, Pokemon might attack you with a certain move where maybe it leaves like all these like sharp ice fragments everywhere or something, or this like cloud of poisonous gas. So it's like as long as your Pokemon's standing in that, it's going to be steadily taking damage. But you can kind of command your Pokemon, okay, we need to go here to go around that. And it's not like super deep, you know. If you ignore that component of being able to place Pokemon where you want them to be for a more strategic advantage, it's not going to change the game super drastically, I wouldn't say. But it is an extra little layer there that kind of adds a nice bit of complexity to it. Um, and yeah, so you've got, your 4 different moves that you can do, and you can change out which move you want to use. I think this is really a really, really good move, a really good change that I don't think is the case in any previous Pokemon games, at least not the ones that I've played. But it's a very welcome addition here, and I don't think it makes the game too easy. I think the added convenience is really appreciated. But you get these, like these TMs, like these discs or whatever that you can equip, that teach your Pokemon different moves. It's like, hey, your Pokemon can learn, lightning bolt now, thunderbolt now. Do you want to equip it or no? Do you want the Pokemon to forget one of their other moves or no? And in all the previous games, again, at least the ones I've played, if you forget a move, it's gone forever. But in this game, it's not. You can equip and unequip TMs anytime you want to at your convenience. And also, you can equip it for any Pokemon. So it's like, you don't have to wait for like Pikachu to learn Thunderbolt and then like this other electric Pokemon to learn it. Like if it's one of your TM moves, any Pokemon can equip it, and you can have it equipped on as many Pokemon as you want. So if you get this TM, you can put it on like 5 different Pokemons. You don't have to get 5 of the same TM. It just one works for all of them, if that makes sense. And I think that's a really nice change. I like that. You also don't have to worry about PP. Again, that's also very weird out of context. But in previous Pokemon games, you would have each of your moves would have a limited number of PP. I'm really not even sure what that stands for, if it's like power points or what. But it's basically like, if you've played other RPGs like MP, like your magic points, or like FP, the flower points in like Paper Mario games, which is just basically, when that runs out, then you're no longer able to use these specific moves. And, depending on what the move is, if it's like a really powerful move that does, a ton of attack points, that does a lot of damage, then maybe you only have 10 PP. Whereas a move that's kind of weaker, you've got 30 PP. So you can kind of a risk versus reward thing. It's like, well, I could probably finish off this opponent, this Pokemon, this turn if I use this really strong attack, but I've only got like one PP left, and then I'm gonna have to go buy more at a Pokemon Center or something. But in this game, you don't have to worry about it. Instead, there's like a cooldown meter, and so the stronger moves will have like a longer cooldown to them. But I like that. I've never been crazy about the whole PP system. Again, this sounds so weird. I feel like such a pervert talking about the PP in Pokemon. Um, but um, but yeah, I like the cooldown that they do instead. I think I'd kind of like to see that moving forward in more Pokemon games. But yeah, I think that's a welcome addition. I kind of forget, like I enjoyed the turn-based battles in Arceus, but I kind of forget what it was that you did in those. I think like if I'm remembering right, they also did kind of a risk versus reward thing where you would have like a weak version of an attack and a strong version of an attack, but the weak version would be slower, or the weak version would be quicker, and the strong attack would be slower. So, if you've got a Pokemon, if your Pokemon's low on health and they're about to die, then, if you use the strong attack, the opposing team might attack first and kill you before you have a chance, or, cause your Pokemon to faint before you have a chance to use it. So it would kind of be this extra little bit of strategy. And I enjoyed it from what I remember about it. But I also really enjoy the battle system in this game. I've heard people say that they think this is the best battle system in any Pokemon game yet. Um, I feel like I've forgotten too much about Arceus to be able to answer that definitively, but I do enjoy it. I do like the battle system in this game. Even if, and this is kind of a problem I've had with all Pokemon games, I do feel like the battles generally are too easy. Because like if I get, like I'll take my starter Pokemon. I forget the name of the Pokemon. Yeah, again, I'm kind of a casual Pokemon fan. So I don't know the names of all, like there's like 1,000 of them at this point. But I kept for most of the game on my team the one I started with, which was like the blue crocodile Pokemon or alligator or whatever it's supposed to be. I evolved him. It might have been like Feraligator. Was that his name? Feraligator. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it. It's obviously a play on feral and alligator, but is it Feraligator? Is it Feraligator? I don't know. But yeah, that one. I kept on my team the whole time, and I, evolved them to their final form and everything. And they were just so OP that I was able to kill most enemies, like, in a couple turns with them, in like 1 to 2 turns. I just, like, knock out every opposing Pokemon, which would make for some very anticlimactic battles. But I feel like that's kind of how it is in every Pokemon game. I don't know what the solution to that is. But yeah, it's like if you just keep leveling up this one Pokemon and just never take it out of your party, usually, like, a lot of times I don't even have to touch my other party members. It's like I'm up against somebody who's sending out like 3 different Pokemon. I've got a team of 6, but my one guy can handle them all. It just kind of feels a little absent-minded a lot of the time, like I'm really not even having to think or strategize. But that's how it's always been in a lot of the other Pokemon games too. I will say, though, that did kind of change in the late game because I maxed out my Feraligator, whatever his name is, to level 100. And since I couldn't level him up any higher, it was like, well, I kind of hate to keep him in my party if I can't rank up. It just kind of feels like I'm just kind of wasting experience that could go to another Pokemon. So I phased him out and started, using my second highest ranked, highest leveled Pokemon instead. And I started getting my butt whooped in a lot of these battles because, like, where I was so focused on leveling up this one Pokemon, it was like, okay, when I take him out of the party, now it's kind of a struggle. So then I did have to start kind of strategizing a little bit more. And one thing I really liked, I've really not touched on, this game has a lot of side quests you can do, which I don't really think is much of a thing in most other Pokemon games. I don't know how many there are. I've encountered at least like 120. But then it seems like there's extra like post-game ones as well. That'll be like, they quit numbering those. It'll just be like, or it like resets. It'll be like side quest EX1 or something like that. So I don't know how many of those there are. But yeah, those, there'll be some of those where it'll be like, you have to go to these restaurants, and it'll be like, have a 5-course meal or a 10-course meal. And what that is you have to fight like 5 or 10 or however many Pokemon trainers consecutively, um, without being able to heal in between. And those get pretty tricky because like one trainer might have like three different Pokemon they attack with. So if every trainer has three Pokemon and you're going through 10 of them, that's 30 Pokemon you have to beat with your six. And you can't use any items. So like if they die, you can't restore their health. You can't use anything to cure your poison or anything. And those ones can get pretty hard. um, it's like there's some that I've still not been able to beat. That's like I might have to get a team of like all level 100s before I can tackle this. So that's kind of cool. I guess I just wish more of the game was like that, but I do appreciate that the challenge is there, if you are willing to do like all of the side quests. The side quests, even though there are a lot of them, and so that's where again I do feel like the game's $70 price tag is justified because these areas, if it is even if it is a small area, Lumio City, it is very densely packed with a lot of stuff to do, and there's all these different side quests. There are only really a few different types of side quests. I would say probably 70% of them are just battles. It's just a trainer saying, "Hey, fight me." So it's kind of more like your classic, going down the routes and encountering people on the road who want to challenge you to a battle. And then of the other 30%, it will be sometimes it'll be a fetch quest. It'll be like, "Hey, I dropped this ring or something in one of the Pokemon zones, but I'm kind of scared to go in there and get it because I don't want to get ambushed by a bunch of Pokemon. Will you go in there and get it for me?" Or there might be people saying like, "Hey, catch this specific breed of Pokemon and bring me an extra large one, or bring me a I don't remember. I think maybe they're called Floettes. There's like this grass type Pokemon. They've got like a flower on their head." And it's kind of interesting. I didn't realize that was really so much of a thing in Pokemon, but that's kind of cool. You've got the extra variation because you've got like, I don't know what the total Pokédex is. I think there's like at least 230 Pokemon in this game or something like that. But on top of that, it'll be like, okay, so there's Floettes. They come in like, I don't know, 5 different colors. Bring me one of all 5. Bring me the one, because that's all still just one entry on the Pokédex. But bring me the one that's got red flowers. Bring me the one with blue petals. Bring me the one with white petals, with orange petals, and with did I say red already? Whatever the 5 colors are. So that's kind of cool. Or it might be like, "Hey, I've got this Pokemon here. I want you to teach them a certain move. So equip a Pokemon into your party that has this certain move." Or sometimes even if it is just battles, it'll be like, "Hey, let's see who has the strongest Pikachu. Remove everybody else from your party. Only have a Pikachu, and let's see which one wins." So it's just a one-on-one. So, there's a decent amount of variety, even if it is a little bit repetitious of like just doing battles or just doing this or that. Or maybe it'll be like, "Hey, let's do like I've got all these garbage Pokemon. Let's do a fight of like using only poison Pokemon and see who wins." So you've got to get a loadout of like all 6 of your Pokemon in your party have to be poison types. But yeah, so there's a pretty good amount of variety. Then you've also got the story of the game, the overall plot, and the characters. It's okay. I wouldn't say it's as good as like again, probably Scarlet and Violet. Of the admittedly limited number of Pokemon games I've played, Scarlet and Violet probably did have the best story. This one didn't have the weakest, but it also wasn't anything like mind-blowing either. So you've got Team MZ that you're a part of. Like you're staying at this like hotel in town, and then there's the 3 other kids there, all kind of working under this guy whose name is just AZ. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But he's like this old guy who, there's like these rumors about him. He's like super tall. He's like 10 foot tall or something. He's like a Goliath. He towers over everybody. And there's like these rumors that he's supposedly been alive for like 3,000 years. So there's kind of interesting stuff with him about like what his whole backstory is. And there's this guy who shows up whose name is L. And at this point I'm done. I'm like, what? Why do all these people have just letters for names? That's so stupid. But later on, you do find out his actual real name. I forget if it's like Lysander or something. I don't know. And you learn about him. I'll go more into that as well as ZA later. Toward the end of this, I'll do like kind of a spoiler section where if you don't want to be spoiled, you can kind of like tune out. So that'll be like maybe the last thing we do. Um, but just kind of going, keeping it on the surface level. So there's this mysterious L guy. And then you join this team MZ that's part of that works under this AZ guy. Again, it's so many letters, it's frustrating. And in your team, I actually had to take a screenshot of the other two team members' names because I found those two to be very forgettable. So you've got this girl named Tawny. I didn't realize that she's got like pink hair. Apparently, if you're a trainer, if you go with like a female body type versus the male body type, instead of it being like a girl, it'll be a guy instead named Urbane. So yeah, Tawny is with you for pretty much the whole game. But if you're confused, like, well, I've never seen Tawny, that's because you must be using a different body type. So yours was was a guy named Urbane. But so you've got Tawny, and personality wise, she's very forgettable. Again, like I had to look up on my phone even what her name was, even though she's with you for the whole game. Her whole thing is like, I work for AZ to help manage the day to day operations of Hotel Z. Again, everything's a letter in this game. And also, I just really like to help people, and I'm a nice person, and that's her whole personality. Then you got this other girl, Lita, I don't know how you say her name. And once again, I got down, she's also a nice person, and she likes to dance, and that's all you need to know about her personality. So one thing I will say about Tawny that kind of adds an interesting element is that you find out that she came to Lumio City because she's missing somebody. There's like a missing friend or somebody that she doesn't actually point blank tell you who it is or what her relationship to them is, but just like, I came here to look for somebody. So that ends this layer of intrigue of like, somebody's gone missing. There's like this detective person, I forget their name too, this detective girl, helping her find her lost friend. I beat the game. She still never found that person. So like, I don't know if it's in the post game, if I just have to keep playing or what, but that would be really sucky if like you never find out what the deal is with this person she's looking for. So I guess if I want to know, I guess I just have to keep playing the post game. But yeah, at this point, credits have rolled and everything, and she's still not found that person. So I don't know what's up with that. Also, one other thing to note about her is that she is I guess a cinematographer. So she likes making like films and stuff. So she is going around and she's like shooting these commercials for the hotel to gain like traction, so that way they get more tourists, more people to check in at the hotel, so they can stay afloat or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much all about Tawny and Lita. So pretty one note, kind of two-dimensional characters. Not anything very memorable. Now the third kid on the team, his name is Naveen. So he's this black kid, and I didn't have to write his name out because he is a pretty memorable character. He actually stands out a lot more than these other two. So of the three kids that are a part of this Team MZ, excluding yourself because you're the fourth team member, Naveen is definitely the most interesting. That's not to say he's like always super likable. I've kind of got mixed feelings on Naveen. He's interesting. I feel like he has the most depth in his personality, but there's also aspects of him where it's like, I don't know if I would necessarily want to be Naveen's friend in real life. So he's really kind of distant. He's kind of emotionally withdrawn, especially early on in the game. And he just has a very dry personality, and he's like borderline rude a lot of the times. So it's like he's got this kind of, I guess, emotional wall up. I don't know, where it's like he doesn't really want to talk about his like personal life and stuff. But then as the game goes on, he does kind of like soften up to you, and he gets to be quite a bit more likable, I would say, and kind of feels like a dependable friend that you can rely on, I guess. But it takes a while before he gets there. So I didn't really love his whole like kind of brooding, kind of emo kid thing that he was going through. It just felt kind of cheesy, kind of cringy a little bit, to be honest. And then it gets really cringy when he finally starts opening up, and you find out that he's basically like simping hardcore for this like e-girl, and I'm just like, oh god, why is this a thing in this game that becomes kind of a major plot point? So like one of the girls, you know, one of the rivals that you have to fight in this arena where you're going up through the ranks to get to rank A, is this yeah, it's this e-girl. She's like this content creator, and he's like, you know, how dare you speak illy of my beloved perfect goddess who can do no wrong. He doesn't say that explicitly, but he might as well. He's down bad. And it's like, I want to say that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet had a similar character. It was like a VTuber or something like that, as like one of the gym leaders that you have to fight, I want to say. So I don't know why Pokemon keeps doing that. I don't like it though. I just think that whole thing is kind of cringe, to be honest. But yeah, so that becomes a pretty big part of Naveen's character, and he's got this weird thing. He's got like this like gatekeeper mentality of like, I was one of the OG fans of her. I'm not one of these fake fans. I liked her before she was cool, and it's just like, ugh. Naveen's starting to give me the heebie-jeebies, and he's gonna grow up to become a Discord mod that has a bunch of allegations against him. No, so I don't know. Naveen, I've kind of got mixed feelings on that kid, but he was one of the most memorable. To give him credit where credit's due, he felt the most realistic. Like I feel like I've seen some Naveens in real life, you know. But yeah, also he is like really into like designing fashion, so he like makes clothes, and I guess I don't know if he's kind of like a freelance artist, like he like I guess designs, like he does commissions like designing clothes for people. So that's kind of interesting. You know, he's got like his own little income going on, and you know, it's kind of, I guess, defies gender roles, you know, as how many men are really interested in like designing fashion. So that's, you know, it's interesting, I guess. He like, you know, sews and stuff. So yeah, I mean, sure, whatever. That's cool, I guess, for him. I don't have a strong feeling one way or another about it. I'm not like, this is woke, men can't sew, but I'm also like not like, oh my god, yes, I feel so represented. I'm just like, sure, that's a thing about his character, you know. No strong opinion one way or the other about it. So that's Naveen. He's pretty alright. Then you got like some other characters. You got Vinny, who's I'm really not sure what his deal is. I think he works for like so there's like this lady who kind of like runs the city. I don't know if she's kind of like sort of like a mayoral type figure. And just like by her design, I thought very early on, I was like, okay, she's going to be the twist villain for this game. Like, it just seems so obvious, just the way that she looked, the way she's designed. And there's one part where, like, there's some people, like, kind of protesting against her because they feel like that she is releasing all of these, like, wild, like, dangerous Pokemon, like, out and about, like, to the city, like, to try to drum up news, I guess, to bring in tourism, that she's deliberately, like, bringing in these dangerous mega evolved Pokemon. So there's these people protesting against that, but then, you know, she, unless it's something in the post game, like that never really amounts to anything. Like she wasn't in on it, which kind of surprised me. I was like, I thought she was going to be the twist villain, but I guess it's kind of like, the Eggman, meme from the first Sonic movie, where it's like, I didn't expect that, but I was expecting to not expect something, so it doesn't count. So props to the game, I guess, for not doing what I thought was very obvious and making that lady the twist villain. This game, maybe we're going a little bit into spoiler territory here a little bit, but this game doesn't really have an antagonist, really, or a villain. There's a big theme in this game, I feel like, of redemption. It's like there's all these people that's like, you find out they have kind of this dark, seedy past, but they want to be better people. and they don't want to let that like define them. And I liked that. I like that element because I do think that everybody is deserving of a second chance. Um, I think we all make mistakes, and I hate cancel culture and stuff like that that's so pervasive in today's society. Um, so I thought it was cool. There's this line that really kind of resonated with me where there's this one character who's like one of the late game people that you fight as you're going up the ranks that was like maybe they might have been rank A. They might have been the last person that you confront. And you find out they used to work for this like dark organization that did some like messed up stuff in the past. And he's got this line where he's kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to let it define me. Like, there's people that's not going to accept me because of what I did in the past, but I'm not going to let that stop me from trying to be better now. Even if I might never find redemption in these people's eyes, that's okay. I don't have to. They have valid reasons that they hate me because of what I did, and I don't blame them. But I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm not going to sit around and be depressed about it. I'm still going to do what I can to be the best person I can be now. Whether anybody else knows or understands that or not, I know that who I am today is not who I used to be. And if I know that, that's all that matters. And I thought that was really cool. That resonated with me. I liked that. But yeah, so you had some interesting characters. You also have at one point, you like have this run in with like the mafia. So that's kind of interesting. You have to like pay off this debt with this syndicate that the pink hair girl, that might be one of her characteristics, is that she's kind of naive, I guess. I forget what I say that her name was. Again, these characters are so forgettable. Tawny. Yeah, she just kind of naively makes this deal where they lend her like $100,000 or again whatever the currency is in that world. But then it's got kind of a catch, like in the contract and like the very fine print. I guess the interest goes up exponentially, so it's like 1 or 2 days later, and it's like, all right, your debt has grown from $100,000 to $1 million. And so it's like every second of every day it's getting bigger. But it's like if you do some work for us, then we can forgive your debt if you're willing to. But the syndicate leader guy, the mob boss or whatever, he's like, how long will it take you to pay off your debt? Maybe only 1 or 2 jobs it'll be for me, or maybe it'll be your entire life. I've really not figured it out yet. We'll just play it by ear. So it's like some very shady stuff. But then it's kind of interesting as it goes on. You find out that the mafia leader he's got kind of a soft side to him. He's not like all bad. So like he was a cool character. I liked his character design. I liked kind of the little bit of depth to his character of just like the ambiguity of it. And there's this one part it's toward the very end of the game, so it's kind of spoilery, but it's not like a major plot point. But it just really tickled me. I actually laughed out loud. So there's this part where like the mafia boss and like all of his like underlings or whatever, you have to like get up on this building, but there's no way up there. There's no like they tried to bring a ladder, but they couldn't get it in because they got ambushed by a bunch of wild Pokemon. So all these mafia people, they're like, all right, kid, we'll help you up there. We're all gonna like get on top of each other and form like this giant tower of like 30 people, and you can just climb up us to get on top of the building. So they all get on top of each other and you're climbing them, and as you're climbing, there'll be like word bubbles pop up of like, oof, ouch, hurry up, you're crushing this kid. So you get up to the top, and then they all hop down, and the boss, he gives you a thumbs up, good luck, kid, you've got this. And then I was like, can I jump back down? So I did it, and then the guy the mob boss was like PO'd. He was like, what do you mean you fell? So I was like, ah, God, we gotta stack up again. So they all had to like, it plays the same cutscene. They're all getting back into a stack, and it's like, don't fall off this time. So that got me kind of tickled. But yeah, so it was overall, I would say I really liked the game. I want to talk about more plot details, but I'll hold off for a bit. I'm looking over my notes if there's anything else I want to go into before I go into like major spoilers. I wrote down like I got like a whole page of notes here with like a very off-model, crudely drawn Pikachu in the corner. um, but I've really not had to use it. I think I've touched on most things without even having to look at my notes here. Um, One thing I did want to touch on that I didn't talk about. So you are in this one self-contained area that's fairly small. Again, I didn't find it too. I still feel like there was a decent enough amount of content. I think you can compare it. I mean, look at like people are willing to pay full price for Animal Crossing, and if you really look at how big your island is in Animal Crossing, like even if the map in this game is pretty small, it's probably 10 times the size at least of a of an Animal Crossing island. You know, so just to kind of put in perspective, an area can be small, but it can still feel like a pretty full fleshed out game, I guess. And I think this game definitely does. But with that said, where you are confined to the same town throughout the whole game, you're listening to the same exact track of music from beginning to end, and it's like, oh my god, it gets so monotonous. I wish that this game maybe had like a radio, kind of like Mario Kart World, where it like cycled through different music. But no, like the the main like Lumio City town overworld theme song, it's just going to be permanently embedded in my brain until I die, probably, because I've listened to countless hours of that just because it's all that plays throughout the whole game. Obviously, like if you get into enemy encounters, that's got a different piece of music that plays. But for a lot of the game, you're listening to this same song. It's got this da 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 da. It's like a kind of a jazzy sort of song. It's whatever. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's just kind of a whatever piece of music. And when it's nighttime, you do have a different variation of it that plays. It's a little bit more smooth jazzy. It's kind of got like a saxophone. It's like, but it's the same song though. So you've got those two versions of it that play throughout the entire game, and it's like, oh my god, I'm so sick of hearing this music. I think I'm about to blow my brains out. So that was kind of irksome, just as far as a knock against the game. And I will also say, the city, like every street, every alleyway that you can go down to, it does all look very samey. So it's very it can be kind of hard to tell where you have and haven't been. Like there's a handful of like those colorful screws that I've not found yet. That's on like the various rooftops and stuff, and it's like I don't even know where to begin looking. Like I wish it would like tell you like you found like maybe divide the map into like eighths or something like a pie. It'd be like, okay, you've got 7 out of 8, screws found in this section of the map. You've got 5 out of 8 in this section. It doesn't do that though. So you're kind of just, you really have no idea where it is that you're missing those last handful of screws. And everything looks so similar. It's like you don't know, like, well, have I been up on top of that building already or have I not? Because this place looks identical to this place. So it can just get very difficult to tell where you have and haven't been. It's easy to get very turned around in this city because it's like everything looks the same. So aesthetically, there's not a ton of variety. I wish there was more stuff like, when you're going through the main story of the game, there's a couple points where you will be in a unique area, but it's not much. It's very infrequent. It almost felt like a Dragon Quest dungeon, though. There's this one part where you have to go into the sewers, and it's almost kind of like a maze under there. There's like all these different branching paths you can go, and there's unique Pokemon you can find in the sewers that's not up in the overworld. And aesthetically, it looked really, really cool. So the game, on the whole, it is kind of bland looking. It is kind of like whatever. But in the sewer portion, which again you only spend maybe a couple hours in the sewer, if that, it looked really realistic and detailed. It was like, oh my god, this is like, it's kind of jarring to see a Nintendo first party game with that kind of graphical fidelity. Like I don't know how it looked on Switch 1, but on Switch 2, it's like this is a very realistic like area. The lighting looks really cool. It looked really nice. It's got kind of like this greenish sort of glowing hue to it. It looked really good, that section of the game. But then you go back outside in Lumio City and everything does look kind of flat. The game's art direction, I think Arceus looks a lot better than this game. Um, I think I really like that cell shaded look of Arceus, and I kind of wish the rest of the Legends games stuck to that. Um, and yeah, for a current gen Switch 2 game that's $70, I can understand why it rubs some people the wrong way. Where it's like you've got all these buildings that look very very similar, and they'll have like I don't know, they'll have like a bunch of rows of windows. There'll be like 30 windows on a building, and the window will have like a little kind of balcony thing on it, but like it's just a flat 2D texture. It's not actually like a balcony you can stand on. It's just flat, and they've got just hundreds or probably thousands of that same copy and pasted flat balcony texture on like all the windows all over the game. So it's like, yeah, it feels in some ways a little bit lazy. Um, Everything at like the skybox, nothing to really brag about. I thought the skybox was really pretty in Legends Arceus. And it was a little embarrassing. I took a screenshot up on top of one of the buildings where you can actually see out into the horizon, and you can kind of see off like the mountains and the green like pastures like outside the city limits. And there's like this stream of water like a river or something, and it looks so N64 level texture. Like it's like, oh, this is kind of embarrassing for a 2025 game with the budget of what the Pokemon company has to work with. But on the whole, I thought the game looked fine. Um, there's this one part where you go into a museum, and there's like a side quest you can do in there, and it's nice. It's still kind of, again, it's kind of jarring, for a Nintendo game, because like you're working with 4K textures now, to have like you've got like all these paintings on the wall, and to actually like see the painting. Like there's so many Switch games on the Switch One where it's like there'll be paintings or there'll be signs, and it'll just be such a blurry, low resolution mess, especially compared to other platforms if it's a third party game. But in this game, like the paintings are so well detailed, like you can kind of see like the individual like brush stroke, like you can see like the canvas material, like how the like canvases have that kind of like coarse material. You can see that if you look closely on the canvases. And like that Hotel ZA that you stay at, there's some nice texture work like on like you can see like the individual like strands of like fabric like in the like chairs and stuff, and like the curtains look nice. So like there's elements when you go indoors, when you go inside of buildings, the textures and the detail looks really really nice. There's this one building you go to where you can trade in those purple crystals I talked about early on. I've not really talked much about what you do with those. But there's this place you can trade those in, and you can trade it in to get like stones that let you mega evolve different breeds of Pokemon. And you can also use it like after you've got all those different breeds of Pokemon, you can start spending your crystals to kind of grind your Pokemon to level up. So like you can trade in crystals for like the EXP candies and stuff, which is really useful. But inside of that building, there's like these like gray, like kind of silvery tiled like floor tiles you can look down at, and you can turn the camera. And as you turn the camera in this specific spot, the light hits it in such a way that's just like really nice and really detailed. The way you can see the reflection of the light turn, that just it's a very subtle little thing, but it's just one of those things I'm not really used to seeing in a lot of Switch games. But it looked really good. So the game can be kind of hit or miss. There's some areas that look really nice in current gen that I feel like could only really be done on Switch 2. But then there's a lot of elements too that's like you could have done this on the GameCube. you know. Overall, the lighting is very flat and kind of non-existent. Like the shade, like a lot of the characters don't really look like they have very much in the way of like lighting or shading, so it makes them look very flat, almost like a mobile game character. It's very well animated though, I'll say that. Just the mouth movements and just like the different gestures and the Pokemon battles. It's not like some of the other Pokemon games on Switch where it's like you use an attack and Pikachu just goes like like he just kind of does a little bounce in place, and then it's like then you see a fist icon, and it's like Pikachu just punched that guy in the face. It's like you actually see them attack, with their different moves. So I would say the animation's very well done. In the battles, it looks good. With your NPC characters, it looks good. One other thing I really want to point out too that I almost forgot to touch on, that's a very good thing for this game. Pretty much every NPC looks unique. It's not just copied and pasted like it is in like all these other Pokemon games. Again, that killed me in Let's Go Pikachu. I think it was even similar in I don't know if it was that way in Sword and Shield or not, but Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I think maybe even X and Y. Like a lot of these games, it's like you encounter these trainers and you battle with them, and it's like they just change the name, but it's the same exact character model, just copied and pasted a billion times. It's like these are all the same character model for school children, but it's like this one's Daryl, the school child. This one's Liam, the school child, but they all look exactly the same. And like this is copy and pasted all the secretaries, all the whatever their occupation is. It's a different name, but it's the same exact character model, which really breaks the immersion and just makes it kind of a forgettable experience. But in this game, pretty much every single NPC, whether it's the trainers that you fight or the people that you're doing side quests for, or if they're a key part of the story, they all look very different. And they all stand out in their own unique way. There's some NPCs, especially in the late game. There was a couple, like these are side quests. These are optional side quests. And the person I was helping, the NPC, it was like, they look super interesting. They look so different from any other character I've seen in the game. And they're just an optional little side character. So I really like that virtually no two characters are alike. The only instance where I would say they reuse the same character model is when you're like with the Mafia people. A lot of the Mafia underlings are just kind of like, they might change the skin color. Like, well, this one's black and this one's white and this one's Asian. But like, they all have the exact same hairstyle. That's like, they all look like Hank Hill. They got the glasses and they got the hair that's like, not quite so short that it's a buzz cut, but also not quite so long that it's a flat top. Just this weird in between, almost like mine right now. I kind of look like Hank Hill. I just got a haircut, so now my bangs are gone. But so yeah, if you just imagine me, like every single one of the Mafia people in that game kind of look like how I do right now. But some of them have black skin and some of them have. But even then, like they'll like there might be like two black people that are part of the Mafia and two white people, but those two black people and those two white people, it's the same model. It's not like, oh, well, one of them's got a mustache. It's like, no, it's literally the same copy and pasted. The two black guys look the same and the two white guys look the same and the two Asian ones look the same. So for that, they do reuse character models. But other than the Mafia, I think every other character in the game looks unique. So that's cool. There's also shops you can go to. So there's stores where you can, of course, you can buy Pokeballs. You can buy different things like that. But there's also like all these stores where you can buy different outfits, so different clothes for your character. So that's one thing. I wish there was more things to spend your money on. Because most of it is just going to be like you can buy, the Mega Evolution Stones. You can buy different outfits for your character to customize your look. You can buy Pokeballs. You can buy potions and revives. That's pretty much it. There's not really much else to buy. And the economy's maybe a little broken because, again, if you just grind out doing a bunch of those like ZA Royale battle zones at night, you can get like a crap ton of money. Like, again, you can get like by the end of the game, when you're doing like the higher level ZA Royale challenges, I mean, you can get like $100,000 or $200,000 dollars in like 20 minutes or so, and like a lot of the things that you buy are just not going to be. Probably the most expensive thing in the whole game that I've seen is maybe 100,000. So again, you can grind to get that money in like 20 minutes or less. So yeah, I feel like there's kind of an overabundance of money. I would have liked. I do like that you can earn that much money. It is really satisfying to see how much you can get in one single night of doing the ZA Royale. But I wish there was something more worthwhile to buy. And the clothes, um, I don't really like a lot of the clothes in this game. Like you can, I think it's kind of weird. Like you can get shorts for your character. You can put them in various kinds of shorts. You can do like cargo shorts. You can do like really short shorts. You can do various different, kinds of shorts. Or you can do like a skirt if you've got a female character. Um, but despite being able to do short bottoms, all the tops are all long sleeve, which I think is weird. So like, because like I wear shorts all the time, even if it's cold out, I typically wear shorts. So I'd like to give my character shorts, but I'm not one of these people that's out there walking around with shorts and a long sleeve. I think it's weird. I don't know why people do it. Like, you got somebody that's going around and they got like it's like zero weather and they're wearing shorts and they got like a hoodie on pulled over their head and they got their arms in the front pocket. I always thought that's kind of stupid looking. No, no, no hate if you're one of the people that does that, but I just like why would you like wear all these layers on the top and then just wear shorts? So like I don't like that I can't do short sleeves and shorts. That's kind of maybe a little bit of a nitpick, but just the clothes in general. Like I feel like 80% of the fashion that you can buy in this game to customize your avatar looks feminine. Like I feel like there's not a lot of masculine clothes options, so there's just not a good variety for male characters in the game. So yeah, not the biggest deal in the world, but yeah, and the fact that there weren't cool looking outfits made me not want to spend so much of my money. So again, I just got all this money saved up with like nothing really to spend it on. So I wish the game gave me more compelling stuff to spend my money on. Um, so yeah, I don't know. What would have been cool? Like I like the angle they did where it's like you're staying at a hotel. But that would have been something just off the top of my head. If like you could customize, like if you actually like rented an apartment and like you could buy furniture to customize your little like apartment space or something, that could have been cool. Um, Maybe they made it instead of like if they made it where instead of Hotel ZA it was like Apartment ZA or something. I think that could have been cool. But again, I do like the hotel setting though. That's kind of a cool little hub area for a game that's kind of unique. Um, but um, but yeah. Anything else that I want to talk about here? Um, there's also research quests that are a lot of fun. So in addition to like the 120 plus side quests, there's this woman, I forget her name, but this doctor research, Pokemon research lady, scientist person who will want you to go out and collect a bunch of different Pokemon and just do other objectives for her to unlock rewards. And that there's like 50 levels. It's like you can level up to be like up to a level 50 researcher for this lady. And that's cool. I really enjoy doing that too. And hers are different from the regular side quests, and they give you so much more of an incentive to catch Pokemon. And I don't know if other Pokemon games had something like this, but I really like it because it's like if I've caught one Pikachu, for example, then I don't really feel compelled to catch more than one because it's like, well, I already got him added to the Pokédex, right? So like, why do I need to catch a bunch of other Pikachu? Because I can just like level him up, and I just I've added him to my party. Now he's level 40. Now all the other Pikachus are level 6. Why would I even bother wasting my Pokeballs to catch a bunch more Pikachu? But she'll be like, hey, catch 50 of every single type, and for each type that you do, then like you'll get a bunch of points toward leveling up and I'll give you a reward. So catch 50 electric type Pokemon. It doesn't matter what level they are. It doesn't matter if it's the same one that you've already caught. Catch 50 water type Pokemon. Catch 50 fire type Pokemon. So I'm doing a lot more Pokemon catching than I feel like in any other game because I'm rewarded for getting duplicates. I'm rewarded for getting the same Pokemon again and again. So that's fun. I can just go to this one particular wild zone. It's like, okay, there's a lot of fire Pokemon that congregate here, so I'm going to go here and spend like 20 minutes just, catching as many of these Pokemon as I can. So that's another enjoyable aspect of the game. One thing that's a little bit annoying is, so I mentioned there's a day-night cycle. And you can change the time of day yourself. You can rest at a bench and, like rest here to pass the time until it's daytime or until it's night again. So kind of similar to Breath of the Wild and like other games like that, where you can rest and change the time of day. Um, it's a little annoying though because it's every time the time of day changes from day to night or from night to day. It's almost like a blood moon in Breath of the Wild, which is a pretty rare occurrence. You're only going to get one blood moon every like what 2, 3, maybe 5 hours. I don't know of game of game time. But in this game, yeah, it's like every like 12 minutes or something. The game stops you and you're hit with this cutscene that's maybe only like a 10-second cutscene or something, but it like focuses in on Prism Tower and the camera pans around and it's like it's just very unnecessary. It's like this really starts to add up when you're getting this 10, 15 second cutscene every 10 or 12 minutes. I don't know why you can't just skip it. Um, so that's kind of annoying. And it also like resets like the enemies and everything again like a blood moon. So that can be really cumbersome because again it can happen in Zelda and it can be frustrating when it happens there too. But because the blood moon is so infrequent, it's not as big of a problem. So like you're battling a Hinox and maybe he's got just that much health left, and then the blood moon happens and it's like I almost had him dead, but the blood moon reset everything. So now he's back to being asleep and he's got full health again. So this battle was for nothing. But that's pretty rare that that's going to happen. But in Pokemon Legends ZA, there's been a ton of times where it's been very annoying where I'll be battling a Pokemon. In some cases, I'll have worn down like a really strong Pokemon. I don't know what they call them. There'll be Pokemon that have like glowing red eyes, just like in Legends Arceus, that'll be like extra strong. But I'll wear him down. I'll knock him out, and then I throw the Pokeball. And the Pokeball kind of bounce around like, and it'll either click like you got the Pokemon, or they'll escape. But right when I do that, like that's happened to me multiple times, like 3, 4, 5 times in my 50-hour playtime of this game. I I take away all their health. I throw a ball, but right before it can click, the time of day changes and it plays the cutscene. And the Pokemon, I don't know if I would have caught it in the ball or not. And that's so frustrating. And now I got to start all over again. Or like it'll have just a little bit of health, like I'm almost there. And then the time of day changes. And it's like, because again, this happens every like 12-ish minutes. So it's so frustrating. So you don't want to get into a battle or be in the middle of anything important like that if you know the sun's about to come up or about to go down. So that was annoying. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. This game also has online battles, which a lot of other Pokemon games do as well, and I don't typically bother. But before I do the podcast, I did want to like touch on that since I hadn't done it before. So I did one battle. I don't know. I don't know that I would care much for it. It's different than I thought it would be. I thought it would be just like a one-on-one me against one other person online, but instead it throws you into like a free-for-all where there's like 4 people. So it's like, there might be these two duking it out, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to attack this person while they're distracted fighting this other guy. It feels a little aimless, kind of like a party game. Like, I don't know if I really see a lot of strategy there. But that was a thing. So I did one round of it, and I was just kind of like, yeah, I think I've had my fill of this. You do get some like really, really good rewards though. So I feel like if you just played a little bit of that here and there, you could get like really overpowered in the main game, which I'm not sure if that's really a good thing. Like I did like one battle, and I didn't even get first place. I came in second. I tied for second out of 4 people. So not that great. And I went up like 2 battles I went up like 2 levels in the online rank, and it was like, here, take 2 rare candies, take 10 large crystals for a level, and it gave me like all these rewards. Take like a bunch of money. It was like I didn't even place very well, and you're giving me like all this stuff for the main game that I don't feel like I earned. But okay, but yeah. So that's a thing. I didn't dabble with it much. I don't really think I would like it very much. Didn't really feel like it was for me. So yeah, I guess, you can tune out now because I'll spend this last few minutes talking about spoilers. So if you're leaving at this point, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. But for those sticking around, so yeah, in the later portions of the game, so again, spoiler warning. Um, I thought it was pretty cool. Like the final battle, like the final boss, basically is like you're fighting the tower itself, like Prism Tower, like in the middle of Lumios that you constantly see and are reminded of. It's like the big central focal point of the whole city. I didn't expect that thing to actually become sentient, more or less, and you actually have to like fight it. So that was kind of cool. Because basically, they explain some of it. I was kind of confused about, and somebody can maybe tell me in the comments. Excuse me. I don't know if this was all stuff that happened in the end of Pokemon X, because again, I played 15 hours of that game, but I never beat it. But throughout this game, they talk about how 5 years ago there was this like almost cataclysmic event that nearly destroyed the whole city, nearly destroyed Lumios. There was like this super weapon that was activated. So I don't know if it was going to be like a nuke going off or what. But they were able to stop the guy who was using it. You find out that this mysterious L guy that you encountered throughout the game, that he was the like the mastermind behind this plan, that he was trying to, I guess, destroy the city and everybody in it or whatever. I don't fully know what his aims were, what his motivation was. But he was defeated. But he was actually injured in, like, I guess the explosion or something. I don't know if he hit his head. And so he kind of has a little bit of amnesia. So he doesn't remember everything, but he's kind of like on the straight now. And he's like, I want to help you. So like this machine that I used isn't completely dormant. It's still functioning, and I need your help to stop it. And that's where, again, this team comes into play that you face, in the rankings. That's like rank A, who the one guy's like, people are still going to think whatever about me, but I'm not who I was then. So these were people, this was this team that worked for this guy, and yeah, they, I guess, have like a change of heart, and so they're all like, yeah, we're not behind this anymore. Well, that's in the past, which I thought was interesting. So yeah, please let me know if that's were these characters from Pokemon X. Does this game only take place 5 years after that game? Because if so, that's pretty interesting. But yeah, that machine is, I guess, still functional and still like causing stuff to happen. Causing these Pokemon to mega evolve, and so you've got to put a stop to it once and for all. Yeah, you also find out that ZA guy, or AZ, whatever his name is, who's been alive for the past 3,000 years, that is true. That he was actually the original architect of this super weapon, and I'm a little lost on some of the plot details. It's like he did it, I think, to save the life of his like Floette, which is like this Pokemon that's with him, that I guess has also been alive for 3,000 years. So I guess this machine, some way, it sucks away the life force from other people and embeds it in the person or Pokemon of their choosing. So that's how I guess he's been able to sustain himself all this time, and that's how he was able to save his Pokemon that's been with him. It kind of confused me because throughout the story of the game, they kept talking about AZ wanting to reunite with his Pokemon. With, I don't know if it was Floette or if it was some type of like a grass type Pokemon, I think. But he's with it throughout the whole game, so it's like, what do you mean? It's right there. So I might have missed something there. I don't know. But yeah, so I guess this machine has been sustaining him. That's how he's been staying alive all this time. So when you actually defeat it at the end of the game, AZ ends up dying. And I really didn't think, because I thought they would kill him off, because they kind of hint at it before the final fight. He's like coughing and stuff. I really expected him at one point to be a villain, because he seemed kind of mysterious, and he seemed kind of like, yeah, I don't know, this guy seems a little dubious. Obviously, there's this mystery angle. There's like a lot of questions about, like, is he really 3,000 years old? How has he been able to keep himself alive? And he even kind of looks a little creepy, so it's like there's something up with him. And it turns out that, yeah, he did have kind of a dark past. I don't know if he was like genocidal. Like, did he? Again, some of the details kind of confuse me. Like, did he willfully kill a bunch of people in Pokemon to save his Pokemon? Um, and then at some point have a change of heart. But it's kind of heavy. You know, it talks about he's been alive all this time, so all these people that he meets and interacts with eventually dies, and so it's kind of this lonely, kind of depressing thing, just this perpetual state of grief of just, you know, everyone he meets dies before him. But you know, he wants to atone for his past mistakes. Same with that L guy. Same with like the leader of this group that worked under that L guy. And so I think it's pretty cool. I like themes of redemption. That's a very big theme of this game. Again, there's no one central villain. Like all these people that I think maybe this person's bad, maybe this person's bad. It's like, well, no, nobody's really evil in this, and I like it. I just did a movie reaction recently to Neja on my YouTube channel. If I'm pronouncing that movie correctly, it's a Chinese animated movie. Great movie. I really enjoyed it. But that movie's very similar too. Like there's antagonists, but they're all kind of like empathetic. Like it really just shows how morally gray life is, and just that everybody is kind of deserving, I think, of a second chance. We're all capable of good and evil. So I just like any piece of media that really shines a light on that shared humanity, you know. So I thought that was pretty cool. And this Pokemon game is another example of that. But yeah, so Z8 finally dies in the end. And the way they do it, it honestly kind of hit more than I thought it would. I didn't like cry or anything, but I didn't expect to feel any emotion. Because again, they were setting it up, and it's like, well, what? He's been alive for 3,000 years. Even if in real life, if somebody dies and they're like 80 plus or something, like it's hard for me to feel too sad about it. Like it's not like, you know, I don't mean to be like insensitive or anything, but it's like, well, they had a nice long life. Like it's, to me, it's very different from like if somebody dies of like cancer or something at like 20, it's like that's a tragedy, you know. If somebody dies naturally of old age who lived to be like 90, you know, like I'm sure there were plenty of people who shed a tear like when Betty White died. She was like pushing 100, right? I think she was like 99, like about to turn 100. But like to me, it's like that's not gonna make me cry, because it's like, well, she lived a very long life. Like I, you know, hopefully I can make it that long with relative good health before, you know, before I'm on my deathbed. Like Dick Van Dyke, he's turning 100 now. Like whenever he dies, like I'm not gonna feel too sorry for him, because it's like, well, he, you know, that's a very long life. And so this guy, especially living 3,000 years, this AZ guy, you know, just the way that they did it, like it was touching, because it was less so that I felt bad, I guess, about him dying, but more just like the impact he had on everybody else, and seeing all the other characters like at his gravestone and putting flowers and stuff there. I thought it was pretty. It was still touching, you know. So yeah, like even if I don't necessarily maybe hate it for the person themselves who died, who lived to be a very ripe old age, you know, it's still terrible that everybody has to go through death, you know, but it is an inevitable thing. But if you were able to prolong the inevitable that long, then, you know, it's like, well, okay, you know, I'm not going to be as sad about your passing. But that's not to say, you know, I'm not still going to feel sad about the people around you who are still mourning, who, you know, wish they had more time with you, even if you did make it that long. So that's kind of how I felt when AZ died as a character. So and that's kind of like the last thing, like the credits roll and it's showing his gravestone. It's like, well, that's kind of a heavy way to end this game. So again, it just really kind of shows, I guess, just another example of my preconceived notions of Pokemon being disproven by like, oh, this is this really cringy, corny, cutesy baby franchise that's not willing to do stuff like that. But it's like, no, Pokemon's not afraid to, you know, show death. And like, again, I only watched the first few episodes of the Pokemon anime, but finding out like that Brock had like a deadbeat dad who ran off and left him and his mom, and Brock had to take care of the family himself and stuff at a young age. It's like, I didn't realize that Pokemon could be this mature. So So yeah, I need to consume more Pokemon media, I guess, because it's not for the little babies like I thought it was. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much all my thoughts on Legend ZA. So again, I really enjoyed this game. Wouldn't say that it's perfect. I think if you some people say, if you liked X, you'll love this piece of media. Um, I wouldn't say that. Instead, for this, it's kind of the opposite. Like if you loved Legends Arceus, you'll probably like this game. It's not as good as Arceus. Arceus had a lot more variety with like four or five. I've been saying five. It might have only been four, but at least four different like open zones to explore freely. It had a much more appealing art style, in my opinion. Um, yeah, more variety of places to explore. Because again, that was something I was wanting to touch on, but I think I got sidetracked. But the open zones in this game, or the Pokemon zones that are like closed off, the wild areas, um, they're all just kind of the same, looking locale. It's just a part of the city that's blocked off. There was one where you can encounter some snow Pokemon that's like actually a snowy, wintry looking area. But there's not like a desert section. There's not like a tropical looking section. It's all just kind of just the same cityscape, which was a little like somewhere like maybe in a park, with like a bridge and some water running underneath it. And some might have been in like more of a urbanized, concrete section of the city. But yeah, so I would have liked to have seen more tundras represented, kind of again like the DLC in Scarlet and Violet, where you've got like those different zones in that like big dome area that's all different biomes. So you don't get that in this game, but you do get it in Arceus. From what I remember, I feel like the boss fights were more enjoyable in Arceus. I like the game's overall art style better. You didn't have the same repetitious music. You had all the different crafting materials that you would gather and be able to craft stuff that was really cool. I even feel like the costumes were better. Again, I talked about in ZA how a lot of the different clothes you could buy were kind of whatever. But in that game, I remember there was like this like cool looking like Japanese like fox mask, like almost kind of like an Okami Amaterasu thing. I feel like there were some cool outfits in that game. Um, but yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty good, and I would say it was pretty on par with how I felt about Scarlet and Violet. But I like the games for different reasons, though. This game is obviously not the full, free, open world that game was. This game's a lot more smaller in scope, and it's a lot more focused, but it's very densely packed with a lot of stuff to do in that small area. So I would hold it in pretty much equal regard. The story maybe not quite as good as Scarlet and Violet, but otherwise, really solid game. And yeah, we recently had those Pokemon leaks, so I'm excited to see the future of the franchise. I know modern Pokemon games are very divisive among a lot of people, but for me personally, I do prefer the more modern style of Pokemon games drastically over the classics. It's probably a good portion of it, maybe it's because I didn't grow up with it, but I just have a hard time finding the fun in those games. But I really, for what it's worth, thought Legends EA was pretty fun. Now, admittedly, after around maybe the 20-hour mark, the repetition did start to set in. The game got to feeling a little bit tedious, the gameplay. So I would have to take more rests in between. It was still fun, but starting out, I could sit down and I'd play the game for maybe 3, 4, 5 hours at a time. But then after a few days of that, it was kind of like, okay, maybe I just need to play like an hour a day or something. And I was able to start enjoying it more. I just had to kind of limit myself a lot more. But it was good. I still enjoyed the game. I don't regret buying it or paying $70 for it. Now with the DLC coming out, is that going to be worth $30, bringing the game to a total of $100? I don't know. I feel like I've gotten my fill. I kind of don't think that I'm going to buy the DLC for this game, and if I do, it probably won't be for like years later if I ever get the itch to play more Pokemon. Because again, like I do at some point still need to buy the DLC, and I probably will eventually for Scarlet and Violet, for Sword and Shield. So add this game to the list too, I guess. Um, but that's really, I guess, pretty much it for this video. I think I've touched on everything. So let me know down in the comments if you picked up Pokemon Legends ZA, what you thought of the game, and if you haven't, did my opinion sway you one way or the other? What was your history with Pokemon? Can you relate with me about not being able to get into the classic game so much? Let me know. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. I've got this podcast here that I'm trying to get back into doing routinely every Saturday. But beyond that, we also do Let's Plays on the channel. I've started doing movie and TV show reactions. So yeah, we've just got kind of a smorgasbord of different types of content here. I do live streams sometimes. So yeah, I even like all my channel art is like drawn by me. Like all my different like thumbnails and logos and stuff for my channel. So I would kind of like to maybe start doing some live streams where it's just kind of a chill thing where I'm just drawing art, and you know, I can kind of answer questions if people have questions, but just people can see me putting together the thumbnails and like all the assets and graphics and stuff that I make for them. I think that could be fun. So yeah, if any of that sound interesting to you, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And yeah, with that, I will catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.